Hi, welcome everyone to the information webinar for Build for Bharat Fellowship. This is the information webinar for our second cohort for 2026. So what's on the agenda for today? Before I tell you about the fellowship or the organization running this fellowship, I want to introduce you to the world of Gov-tech. Not everyone is familiar with the kind of technology that the government uses, and so I want to set the stage first. Also, it is important to understand the space and the mission with which the fellowship has been started before I introduce you to the fellowship and the organization running this fellowship. I'll also then walk you through some of the projects and the work our fellows from the last cohort were able to accomplish, all very, very interesting projects. And then I also want to share who were these fellows mentored by during their time in the fellowship. All right, so let's begin. What exactly is GovTech and what is this fellowship all about? Many of you come from diverse backgrounds, right? Design, development, some of you come from a data science background, some of you are from GIS background. So in our daily lives, we constantly interact with technology platforms built by the private sector. But increasingly, we are also direct users of technology created by the government. And so there is a quote that I often come back to. As you become an adult, you realize that things around you weren't just always there. People made them happen. But only recently have I started to internalize how much tenacity everything requires. That hotel, that park, that railway. The world is a museum of passion projects. And indeed it is. So a lot of what we see around us was once somebody's passion project. You can think about the roads you work on, the electricity in your homes, the railway stations, even more ambitious projects, right? From, landing on the moon, or let's say ensuring every home gets piped water. All of them have the government playing a central role. Now to make this a little more concrete, let's take an example. Imagine there's a small habitation in some part of rural India without a proper road. And back in early 2000s, the government identified 1,75,000 such habitations that lacked a pakka road or an all-weather road. And to solve this, the government launched a massive program called the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana or PMGSY. Now, think about what it takes to actually get a program like PMGSY running. You first have to find these 1,75,000 habitations in the country. It's a vast country with their locations, with the population, with the possible routes on where to build roads. Then you have to prioritize these habitations, right? Because you can't build all the roads at once. So PMGSY was also a multi-year program, and the roads are built over multiple years. So you need to decide or prioritize what roads will be built in year 1, year 2, year 3 and so on. Then you need to allocate funds from the central government to the states, and then you need teams at the state level, you need teams at the district level, and even at the block level for implementation of the scheme. Then you need to create the design and cost estimates for each of the proposed roads, and then you also need a mechanism to vet these proposals for efficiency. You then bid out the work to private contractors in a transparent way, and then you also need to measure the quality of the work that is being done on the ground. Then you need to pay the contractor's bills, who's building the road, and then the state headquarters also need to monitor the construction delays that might be happening. And even if the road is constructed, now it needs to be maintained, and there are now a lot of activities that are required for maintaining a road. For example, engineers need to routinely inspect these roads, and then you also have to devise a way for the citizens to complain about poor roads or the quality of the roads. So what I'm trying to say is that just the simple idea of building a road involves an immense amount of operational complexity. And obviously, it is impossible to manage the scale and complexity without technology. So every single operation I just discussed has a digital system behind it. You can maybe think of it like the apps that you use daily, right? You only see the user facing part, but there's a whole world of IT systems making that user facing part work. For example, in our road example that I gave, you need a GIS algorithm to help you plan which roads to build. And then you also have an AI model to detect anomalies in the cost estimates to prevent fraud from happening. And then maybe because the digital payments are to be made directly to the contractor's bank accounts, you need a system for the digital payments also. And then there has to be a citizen app which allows people to file complaints about the road quality. So in a sense, GovTech is the government's back office. It is the collection of this invisible and sometimes boring but absolutely essential digital systems that allow the government to deliver services. And often the government's delivery depends on how reliable, resilient, and responsible these systems are. But GovTech also has a front office, and these are the systems we as citizens interact with directly. Many of you have already used these. You can think about the Passport Seva Kendra, which is a hybrid physical and digital system. You can think about the income tax portal, which you use to file your returns. Or maybe the emergency response systems like dialing 112, which triggers a chain of IT systems to dispatch help to your exact location. Then there's Umang, which is the super app of the government that gives you access to hundreds of government services all in one place. And then you also have e-challan for traffic violations. These are just some of the examples of what the government's front office looks like, the applications which we as citizens interact with on a day-to-day basis. And then there's the most recent evolution of GovTech, which is the Digital Public Infrastructure or DPIs. These are shared digital building blocks like the APIs or the design system, which both the government and the private sector can build upon to solve public problems. I'm sure all of you must have used DigiLocker. DigiLocker is a perfect example of a DPI that millions of us use. Now, this brings me to the fellowship. The Build for Bharat Fellowship is a paid 6-month program designed to identify and equip the next generation of public technologists who use their technical skills for the public good. And who are we? We are Bharat Digital. We are a non-profit organization started by technologists and designers with decades of experience working both in the government and in the private industry. And our mission is to modernize and humanize how governments design, develop, and deploy technology in the service of public. We partner directly with the government departments and also community organizations to achieve this goal. Now, the fellowship has three core components. One is the orientation. The fellowship kicks off with a specially curated training program. It's a 3-day program. It's like a crash course in public technology to get you ready for the work ahead. This we just organize before you are deputed to your partner organizations. The second key component is the deputation. So this is a full-time on-site fellowship. It's not a remote opportunity. You will be matched with one of our partner government agencies where you will spend 6 months embedded in their team and working on a real-world problem statement. The third key component is mentorship. So throughout the fellowship, you will also get exclusive office hours access to mentors from the industry. These are industry leaders in the field, in the various tracks that we have. And then you'll also be mentored by the core team of Bharat Digital on a daily or on a weekly basis. Let's talk logistics now. This is a 6-month fellowship, like I've told you earlier. It runs from January to June 2026. This is a completely on-site, in-person fellowship. Fellows will work from the offices of our partner government departments. Your location will depend on the project you are matched with, and it could be anywhere across India. We, however, do consider the preference that you give during the interview process. And yeah, the fellowship offers a stipend of 40,000 a month. Now we have four fellowship tracks this time. The first one is data, which includes data analytics, working on AI, ML or LLM problems, and data visualization. The second track is engineering, which includes full stack, front end, back end, and mobile developers. The third track is product design, which covers UI, UX, visual design, information design, and very importantly, user research. And then we have GIS, which involves remote sensing, working with satellite imagery, and on infrastructure planning projects. So what kind of work will you be doing? Here are some examples of the types of projects fellows might be involved in. For example, employing AI and ML to reduce paperwork and automate systems, or conducting field research to improve the user experience of a frontline government worker. You could also find yourself redesigning a government form to make them more inclusive and accessible. Or other examples are, let's say, improving the incident response systems and trying to figure out how do you minimize the response times, or using GIS data for better infrastructure planning. Um, Now, who is eligible? You are eligible for this fellowship if you are graduating in 2026, or you have already graduated in 2024 or 25. We welcome applications from all academic levels, undergraduate, masters, or PhD students. I also want to highlight that there are no restrictions on your track, on your domain or specialization, as long as you are able to demonstrate work relevant to the track that you are applying for. And yeah, you must be an Indian national to apply. Now, is this fellowship for you? This fellowship might be a great fit for you if you are eager to learn how large-scale government systems work and why they break. So you love digging deeper to understand not just why things work, but also why they don't work. If you're excited about improving complex systems and processes and not just writing code or designing screens. Um, and if you have, a demonstrated interest in social impact, perhaps through your past projects or even volunteer work, then you might be an ideal candidate for this fellowship. Also, when working on social impact problems, you need a certain mindset and not just the technical skills. So if you see constraints not as blockers but as design challenges to work around, and if you're patient enough to understand that meaningful change takes time, so the work that you do during these 6 months will be one important piece of a much larger puzzle that the government is working on, right? And so you appreciate that. And yes, if you have a knack for critical thinking, you are curious and you ask why before jumping to or devising solutions, then this fellowship will be deeply satisfying for you. And finally, if you are comfortable working in new and ambiguous environments, you are self-driven, you are resilient, you are humble, you're respectful of the people you'll be working with, even if they don't speak the same language of tech and code as you do. These are the kind of people we're looking for. Let me now introduce you to the mentors that the cohort of 2025 fellows had. These are some of the leading industry experts in their fields. We had Kailash, who's the CTO of Zerodha for scalable systems and open source. We had Rukmini S, who's a renowned data journalist and author of Whole Numbers and Half Truths for public data and visualization. We had Ujjwal Gandhi, who's the founder of Spatial Thoughts and a former staff scientist at Google Earth for our GIS track. And we also had Devanshi Sehare, who's a design strategist and heads the social impact vertical at Tinker Labs. She was for our design track. So the fellows had exclusive access to their office hours. Some of our mentors guided the fellows on their specific projects. Some of them did an open house AMA with the fellows. And so for the 2026 batch, we'll be announcing our mentors in a few days. You might want to keep a tab on our LinkedIn page for more announcements on this front. Okay, so what will you take away from this fellowship experience? Uh, you're going to get a deep orientation to the field of public technology. So there's a very curated curriculum and an orientation program to introduce you to this field of public technology. And you're going to gain rare insights into how government functions at scale. You'll be working on real world problem statements, which can impact the lives of thousands, if not millions of people. You'll also receive technical mentorship from the industry experts, and you'll become part of a curated cohort of passionate, like-minded peers. This is a very competitive fellowship, so you get to network with a highly selective pool of fellows. Please take a note of these important dates. The application deadline is 23rd October. The applications are open now. They'll be open for about a month. We are closing applications on 23rd October. Between 23rd October to 23rd November, we'll have interviews. So there's a screening process. If you get through the screening process, you'll get a call for the interview. The interviews are going to be in the month of November mostly. And for some of you, for some of the government departments, they also insist on speaking to the fellows before the fellows are deputed. So some of you might also have a partner call. We are going to announce the final selected fellows on 26th of November. And in January first week, we are going to have an in-person 3-day orientation session before you are deputed to the partner departments. Now, a quick word on the application form. So every track has a separate application form. So you need to fill the form for the track that you are applying for. The form has 4 parts, rather 3 parts. First is the basic information, which includes your college, your skills, the languages that you speak, etc. The second section is the technical experience. Now this is crucial. We're looking for people with demonstrated technical or design experience. So you would need to share your portfolios, your GitHub links, your personal projects, or any academic work, anything that is able to demonstrate the work in the track that you're applying for. And then the third section is a public tech challenge. This is a track specific hands-on exercise that we want you to do and submit. This is there to, help us understand how you think, how you problem solve, how you basically apply your skills in a real world government technology context. And a word of caution is that we genuinely want to know who you are. So please do not use ChatGPT or other LLMs to write these answers. Uh, Authentic and personal responses are going to reflect much better on your application than an LLM generated answer. Now, very briefly, I want to tell you about some of the projects that our fellows from the past cohort had worked on to give you a feel of the space. They are obviously not the specific projects you will work on. There will be new projects, but this will give you a sense of what could the projects look like. So one of the government departments that we partnered with was RDPR, which is the Rural Development and Panchayat Raj Department of the Government of Karnataka. There were 3 fellows that were deputed here, 2 of them design fellows, 1 data fellow. And all 3 fellows sort of worked on solving one problem statement, which was how do we bridge the gap between the government information that is out there publicly available and a rural citizen, which is from a low literate background. How do we bridge this gap between the information that is out there and the citizen, so that the local citizen can hold their governments accountable and also meaningfully participate in the local government functioning. For this, there is a lot of data that the government of Karnataka makes available publicly on their website. It is the data about the performance of the panchayat, or the budgets and the expenditures, any schemes or any initiatives that are being launched, but not necessarily it is in an accessible format. And so the fellows kind of did a user study. They did one-to-one interviews with the rural citizens to ascertain a baseline of the rural data literacy, to be able to say, oh, these charts do not work with the rural citizens, or this is how it will work with this segment of people. And they sort of designed some data visualizations which were accessible and more understandable, more comprehensible for the segment of users that we were targeting. Another modality that the fellows tried was an audio format. So they kind of turned these complex panchayat data into engaging audio video content in local language, in Kannada. The third project that the data fellow worked on was improving the quality and system of panchayat meetings. So there are a lot of key meetings that happen at the panchayat level. These are like the grassroots of the democracy in a panchayat. This is what the decentralized governance is all about. And so there are Gram Sabhas, there are GP general body meetings, there are Ward Sabhas. So Gram Sabha is like a very big meeting where every citizen of the panchayat is invited and is free to attend, and they discuss various issues prevailing in the panchayat, and what are the steps, and what is it that we need to do, how is it that we need to spend the budget, and what are the taxes, and what is the collection that has happened in the panchayat. So all of these things. And so the thing that the department was looking to do was to kind of assess the textual information that is getting captured in the minutes. So the after every meeting, the minutes were being recorded and put out on the system for everyone to see. But because this was unstructured text, they had no idea what issues were being discussed. So the data fellow analyzed this unstructured textual information in the minutes and came up with the themes or topics or the issues that are being discussed frequently in these meetings. And so this was like a very nice insight for the department also, as to what is it that is being discussed and can we standardize the minutes format. Second, this whole analysis also gave the department an insight into the quality of minutes that are being recorded. So if let's say some people are recording very generic minutes, versus some are writing very in detail, very specific things that were being discussed, that were discussed, and any actions or any decisions that were taken. And so the fellow also was able to be able to come up with a sort of very nice aggregation or very nice summary into these are the minutes that we need to improve, and these are the minutes that are incomplete or are vague and should be entered with more details, so that it is of value to a citizen, it is of value to somebody who's reading the minutes. And so the fellows then also worked on improving the UX of this meeting module, and how can they make it more easy for the panchayat staff to enter good quality meeting minutes. Our second government partner department was Center for E-Governance Karnataka. And so the government of Karnataka has a mobile application or a platform called CAMS, which is like the government employee attendance management system, which is a mobile application for the Karnataka government employees to mark their attendance, right? So they can mark their attendance through their cell phones. And so the fellows here did a nice user research to uncover some of the problems with the app They interviewed users, they did FGDs and all of that, and they then were able to come up with some design recommendations, and they overhauled the entire user interface to make it more usable and effective. There were also data fellows who were working in this team, and the data fellows implemented on-device image quality and a liveliness check to then sort of guide the users and ensure every check-in that is happening on this app is successful and is also legitimate. Another government partner department was IHMCL, which is the Indian Highway Management Company Limited. It implements and manages the electronic toll collection such as FASTag on national highways. So four of our fellows were placed with them. And if you are aware of the recent annual pass that was launched for FASTag on Rajmarg Yatra mobile app, that whole module was designed and implemented by our fellows. And so I'll just uh, take you through a quick demo of what the website looks like. And so the interface that you see here was designed by the fellows, and they also supported the development team with its implementation. We also partnered with a central ministry, which is MOSPI, which is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, which is the nodal ministry for releasing some of the most important stats of the country, like GDP, inflation, etc. And so there were two fellows who worked with MOSPI. One of them was a data fellow, the other one was a design fellow. And the data fellow worked on a very interesting problem statement in the sense that the department was trying to predict MPCE using the household characteristics which comes from HCES. So MPCE stands for monthly per capita consumption expenditure, and it's a key economic indicator in India which represents the average amount of money spent by each person in a household over a month. And so right now MPC is not readily available. So it gets available in 5 years using survey data. And what the department was trying to achieve was to have MPC uh, on a more frequent basis. So they were trying to explore if we can predict MPC using some of the household characteristics from an HCES survey, which is another survey that gets conducted by the ministry, which happens on a more frequent basis. And so this was one problem statement that the data fellow worked on. The second fellow, who was a design fellow, so MOSPI was also in the process of redesigning and overhauling their entire website when the fellows were deputed with them. So the design fellow actually helped MOSPI do a complete UX overhaul of their website. So she analyzed the survey responses from 86 stakeholders that the ministry already had. She mapped the requirements. She conducted a heuristic review to identify the key pain points in the website. And then she also helped the department with an improved information architecture, designing some interactive data visualizations with contextual summaries, trend analysis, and all of that. Um, and she also actually helped Mosby design the new mobile app that the department was launching. So another department that we partnered with was Tamil Nadu E-Governance Agency. There were two fellows that worked with TNEGA, Tamil Nadu E-Governance Agencies, and the fellows helped the department, redesign their eSevai portal. eSevai portal is a single window gateway to how services are being delivered to the citizens of Tamil Nadu by the state government. We also had a product fellow here who helped the department with conceptualizing and do a product roadmap for a dashboard for top executives like, the chief secretary, the Teenega CEO, etc. And the fellows also help the department finalize the key metrics which are important to view for the leadership. And then the design fellow helped to design this whole dashboard. Our last partner department was CDAC, which is the Center for Development of Advanced Computing. So the fellows placed with CDAC Trivandrum worked on a very interesting and important project, which is to improve response times of 112. So 112 is India's 911, which is when someone is in an emergency, they call 112 and a vehicle from the nearest police station is dispatched to the location of the caller. So this was a very cross-functional team of fellows in the sense that we had a four-member team here. We had a data fellow, we had a GIS fellow, we had a design fellow, and we also had a full stack fellow. So together they studied this whole system of 112. They conducted an end-to-end system analysis by mapping the stakeholders, the workflows, and the transactional flows from call initiation to the resolution. So when a call comes, the call center executive is just focused on capturing the nearest police station, because then they can just tag the incident to that police station, and then the police station had to call the user again and get their exact location, and the user is already in a mode of panic. And so then the team then tried to get the location details from the audio itself, the fellows, rather than what was being marked on the ticket. And the data fellows in this team evaluated various speech to text models, both open source and proprietary STT models. They evaluated models on dual criteria. They also evaluated the model for accuracy as well as latency and did a trade-off analysis. And this benchmarking they did using real world Hindi emergency call audio. The GIS fellow in the team then did a hotspot detection and also developed an allocation model which optimizes vehicle placement, sort of identifying the strategic locations where should the vehicles be parked to reduce the average response times. So this was an example of a cross-functional team wherein fellows from different tracks worked together to achieve one single objective, which was to reduce the incident response times when a call comes at 112. This was all I had to tell you before you decide to apply for this fellowship. You can follow us on LinkedIn to be updated with more announcements on this front. And also, if you would generally want to know what Bharat Digital is involved in, please visit our website. You can also watch testimonials of our past fellows on our LinkedIn page. As an end note, if you are interested in the work we are doing, but you are not yet eligible for this fellowship, or if you're a working professional with more than 2 years of experience, you can still help us in our mission. You can scan this QR code. This will take you to a link tree which has a form for volunteering with us. You can fill the form, and if anything suitable comes up, we'll contact you.